Mathematics Ordinary Level, Paper 1, 2023, Part 2. Let's continue with question number 10. Mr. Stein bought a bookcase for 1,200 and sold it for 1,440. Calculate his percentage profit. Okay, it's again percentage. So if you want to see where you can find it in the textbook, maybe I'm going to write it rather here on this video. So you can check part 1. It's still chapter 1. And it is calculate percentage increase. Calculate percentage increase or decrease, but in this case increase. And you will find, look on page 13 and try example 8. That is going to help you. Okay, for this question. Okay, let's start with the question. So the first thing that you're going to do is to find the value of the increase. Okay, so the increase is going to be that 1440 minus 1200, and that is going to be 240. So first get the value. Then take the 240 and put it over the original one. Now, the original one was the 1,200. And now I'm making a percentage by multiplying with 100. Okay, and then I'm getting 20%. So that will be a 20% increase. Okay, and that's how you do it. And if I must give marks, they will give, so if you come to the 240, you put it. So for that step 1, and if you arrive at the 20%. Okay, that's that question. Let's do the next one. It is given, number 11, that px equals 4x minus 7 and qx equals x to the power of 3. Find p to the value of negative 2. This is functions. So where will I find it in the textbook? Let's just write here for this question. So this I will find chapter 6. So let's just say chapter 6. It's the first part of the chapter, which is going to be functions and graphs, but you will find it in that first part. And then you can look there on page 226. Look at example 1. And that's in the y equals mx plus c mathematics textbook. Then you're going to see it's going to help you. But let's do it. So this is it's almost just like substitution. So it's going to be p, and I substitute the negative 2. Just make sure you copy correct. So 4 and negative 2 minus 7, and that's going to be negative 8, negative 7, and that's going to be negative 15. Okay, so that answer is going to be negative 15. After this question, I will go to the exam report. And then find x when gx equals this. Now, in that same chapter, I'm just going to, I'm substituting in this. Okay, let's just first go for the equation. There is the q equation. And now let's substitute that 2197. And what do I do to get a cube? What is the over the equal sign? I'm taking the cube root. And you can press it in on your calculator. And what are you going to get? 13. Let's just go to first the report. So if I go to the report for that 2 questions. First number 10. Okay, I'm just going to make it bigger that you see better. Okay, question number 10. Okay, this was now the question of percentage, which is actually sad when they say this question is poorly answered because this is coming from grade 8 and 9. Common wrong methods. Oh, is that they put the 2. Now first get the amount of ink. And then they 120 or subtract wrongly. So that is incorrect. Teachers need to emphasize on the correct calculation of percentage. So it's either the profit or the loss, in this case profit, over the original times 100. And then you get 20. Then question 11, the functions, well answers. Although a common wrong answer of 15 as opposite to negative 15. Okay, but we were correct. And then sadly, poorly answered. I think it's due to the reverse. Common wrong answer is this. Was seen clearly indicate the candidates failed to understand that then the simple subtraction should be the next step in solving the equation, substitution. So after that, I just would take the cube root. But 13 was the correct answer. And it was just 1 mark. Let's go back to the question paper. Okay, so let's see. There's a final one on this page. And we can quickly do that final one. Fatima invested 4,000 when the rate of simple interest was R% per year. At the end of 2 years, she had a total of 4,500. Calculate the value of R. Okay, now where do I find this in the textbook? This is interest. So it's also in part 1 of y equals mx plus c, mathematics textbook. And that is simple interest. Simple interest. Okay. You can find it on page 43. Just go there and then you just work through it. Okay. So first just write down the formula. On page 43, you'll see that the formula, I'm just going to write it down, for interest is P, the principal, multiply R, multiply T over 100. Okay, but now in the place of interest, I have the interest. Okay, now how do you see? First get the interest. I forgot to write it here, but let's see. To get the interest, it's going to be that 4,500 minus the 4,000, and that's going to be 500. So I fill in the 500 here. Then, okay, that is the interest. Then the principal, she invested 4,000. Then I'm looking for the rate. I have the time 2, and it's over 100. And I just simplify this. Put this over 1. So if I multiply this 2, then I'm going to get 51, 2, 3. And it's going to be 800 R. 8,000 R. And then I divide by 8,000. And I divide by 8,000. And I get that the value of R is 6.25. You can, and just fill it in there. It's an exact number. 25%. Okay, let's go to the exam report. So what is the exam report saying? Okay, so let's see if it's still on this page. It's question number, no, it's the next one. Okay, question number 12. Poorly answered. I think most of the people didn't know the formula. Most candidates scored a mark for 500, so at least you got that mark. However, they could not apply correctly methods in calculating the rate. A common wrong answer was 56.25. Some candidates even used the compound interest formula. Most candidates used the total amount and substituted in the formula instead of finding the interest first. So there. So for this, if you come to that, then you could have get 2 marks, but the answer was 6.25. Okay, let's go back to the question paper. So unfortunately, so the marks, so I think because it's 3, let's just go back. So for the 500, you would have already get a mark. So even if you did it in pencil there, just leave it, you will get that mark. And then for substituting it incorrectly, and then for the final answer. This one was just 1, 1. I forgot to mark that box. Let's just see if I did the first one. Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next page. So let's start with question number 13. Okay. Again, I'm going to write this just where you can find it in the textbook. Okay. Just want to. Okay. So remember, always leave this space open for the examiners. So I'm going to make it a bit smaller. Just one. Oh, it's again too small for me. Okay. Let's start with the question. Let's start first where you find it. Question number 13. A bus sets off, so it looks like time. Okay. So a bus sets off at 10:54 on a journey to Omboloka. The journey takes 2 hours and 15 minutes. Write down the time when the bus arrives in Omboloka. Okay, now you will find time. It's also coming from primary 8 and 9. But if you must check in a book, you can go to part 2 in the y equals mx+c mathematics textbook. You can go to chapter 10 and you will find time on page 496 there. Okay, so go and check. So now I'm starting there. So it's going to be 10:54. And it's taking, in this case, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I just add it up. So this is 9, and this is 6, and this is 12. But this is more than an hour. Do you see? It's 69. So I take 1 hour over. So 13 hours, I subtract the 60 and 9. So this will be the time when it's going to arrive there. 13:09. The distance to Omboloka is 150 kilometers. Calculate the average speed of the bus. Okay, now again, where will you find it? Now speed, distance, speed and time. You can go to part 1 again in the textbook. You can go and check at chapter 6. And there on page you will find the triangle for distance, speed and time. There on the top of the page, DSTV. Okay, let's just make it like this. DSTV. Okay, so if I'm going to find the average speed, so let's just quickly, because now it's taking 2 hours and 15 minutes. So we will just take everything to hours. So make it 2 hours and take the 15 and just divide it by 60 and you add it, because then it's hours. Now just be careful if you're going to, because then it's going to be, if you say 15 divide 60, it's going to be 2.25. So I first express it just in hours. And now I'm starting. So if I want to find the speed, it's distance divided by time. So the speed is distance divided by time. And the distance is going to be the 150 divided by the time, 2.25. And that's going to give me 66.666666. Okay, right first unapproximated. And then I approximate to 3 significant figures. So it's 66.7. And let's just go to the examination page, to the report. Okay. So question number 13. It's still on this page. It's fairly answered. Many candidates got the correct time, but wrongly added notation of time as opposite to give the exact time. Some candidates could not differentiate between the 24-hour and the 12-hour notation, as well as duration and exact time. That's very important. So duration is how long does it take? Exact time is on your watch. What is the time now? So basically it was just adding and then bring the hour over, and it's 13.09, or you could say 1.09 p.m. And then number B, poorly answered. Common answer, wrong answers was this and this. Some candidates calculate speed as this, so they didn't get the formula correct. Some candidates did not realize that 15 minutes is the same as a quarter of an hour. Okay, so make first everything 2 hours. But the correct answer was 66.7, as I showed you. Okay, let's go back to the question paper. Okay, so number 14. Write it here. Mrs. Khan won money in a competition. She divides this money among herself, her husband, and her daughter in the ratio 4 to 3 to 1 respectively. She gave the husband 1,800. Calculate the total amount of money she won in a competition. Okay, so basically, where will you find it in the y equals mx plus c mathematics textbook? It's in part 1. It's in chapter 1. And it's at the ratio. And the one in ratio, it's, and I'm going to write it here, given ratio and one outcome, find the other number. And that is on page 35, and I think that example 32 will help you. So go there. Okay, let's start. So it's Mrs., it's Mr., and she divides the money among herself and her husband and her daughter. So this stands for daughter. So it's 4, 3, 1. She gave the husband 1,800. So now what you must do is you must see with what did she multiply there. With what did she multiply there? Now the reverse of multiply is divide. So 1,800 divide by 3. So she was multiplying with 600. Now you can first find all of them. If you multiply with 600, and if you multiply with 600, then you are going to get 2,400 and you're going to get 600. And then the total is 2,400 plus 1,800 plus 600, because remember, calculate the total, underline that, and that will give me 4,800. And I fill in there, very important to complete that space, 4,800. Let's go to the question report. So question number 14, we're just going to make it bigger. Okay, this question was fairly answered. Most candidates use an incorrect method and some considered 1,800 as the total amount. So they divided, they took that 1,800 and divided by the total, and subsequently divided parts using the total. Although the majority of learners knew that the total of the portions was 8, they struggled to see 1/8 is equal to 3/8. Common wrong answers were all this, but the correct answer was 4,800. Okay, so it's going to be, I'll just show you. If you got all 3 of them correct without adding, you would also get 2 marks. So let's just go back to the question paper and let's see. So again, it's 3 marks, but you will get 4. Okay, let's just see. I forgot to show you also here. Can I just show you the marks for this last two questions? Okay, so this was just a 1, so sorry, it's only 1. This one, as if you came to this calculation they gave you, and for the final they gave you. And then this one, if it's 4,800, so it's all, if you came to all that free, just let marks, then they would have gave you a mark there. So basically, I think if you already came to this step, you would have got 2. But adding it up, you would get 4,800. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Question number 15. Okay, next. Oh, this is nice. This is sets. Please, sets is not difficult. Just work through the chapter in my textbook. Practice it. I remember there was a stage when I was growing up, when it was in primary, yes, it was in grade 6 or 7. Okay, we did it in primary school. Okay, but I think they ask it a little bit more difficult now. We didn't do shading and things like that. But let's start with question number 15. So first, I always like to show you where to find it in the textbook. And as I said, you will find it in part 1. Chapter 2, textbook part 1. And that's sets. And that's page 76. And you can look there at the shading. And I think example 13 will help you. Okay, so go there. If you struggle, then you try to do the sum before you look at the video. Okay, the Venn diagram. So it will be very good to first stop the video, to first try it on your own, and then to continue the video to see if you are correct. The Venn diagram shows the set of learners. P is a set of learners who are doing physics, and B is a set of learners who are doing biology. Shade, and now they give you in the diagram above. Now, what I like to do, because I think it's sometimes easier, I first like to just, this area outside is 1, and this is 2. You can write it with pencil in. This is 3, and this is 4. So if I ask you that now, I would first write this down. So if I say the complement, remember that little dash is meaning complement. So the complement of P, then it will be 1. It's like I cover P, and what is left? 1 and 4. And then I find the complement of B, and that's 1 and 2. And then I find the intersection. It means what is in both. And what is in both? In both will be just 1. Do you see? So that. And now I will go and I will show it. You can rub, but you don't have to. Now I will just use my, and I'll just make sure that you mark it clearly. Take a ruler. I think it's going to help you a little bit. But you don't have to color it in. You can just use the stripes as blocking out. But make sure that you do it from the set. Okay, so that it stands out very clearly. Okay, that was the first one. Now number B. In a class, and now I see I wrote here, the example that will help you. Go then now to page 78. Example 14. Okay. So in a class of 35 learners, 18 students. Okay, now it's always good to work with the Venn. So if you have to redraw it, and I'm going to just redraw it now, I can just make for myself another one. I'm just afraid sometimes that with all that stripe, you're going to write too many stripes. Don't work on the previous one. Rather make for yourself just another one. Okay, in a class of 35, that means this is 35. E. Okay. 18 students took physics. So it's again physics and it's again biology. And the physics, 18 students took physics, 20 took biology, and 2 students neither. That means 2 was outside here. Okay. Now find the number of learners who studied physics and biology. Now if you do that, it's like you're going to add all 3 amounts, the 18, the 20 and the 2. So you say 18 plus 20 plus 2, and then you subtract it from that 35. And what do you got? 5. And that 5 is what's standing there in the middle. And now to get this one there, it's 18 minus 5, which is going to be 13. Okay? And then 20 minus 5, it's going to be 15. And you can test. If you now go and you say, if you add it up, say you say 15 plus 5, that's 20, plus 13, it's 33, plus 2, it's 35. Do you see? But what is the question say? Find the number of learners who studied both physics and biology. So make sure you are filling there in 5. Okay. Only biology, it's that one, and that's 15. Okay, and that's how I do it. Let's go to the report. So if I look at the report, so, okay, see, it's usually people neglect this chapter, and it's a very short, fairly answered. Some candidates shaded the intersection, but it was the outside. The number 2, poorly answered. Common wrong answers was 0 or 3. Some candidates wrote the correct answer on the diagram, but then proceed to write a total different answer on the answer space. Very important that you control. Some candidates interchanged their answers for the 2. So it was then 5 and 15. Okay. And let's go back to the next question. Okay. Question number 16. Let's first read the question. A chocolate costs euro, $3.20, and pound, that's a sign for pound, 5.38. When the exchange rate was 1 pound equals 1.08 euro, calculate the difference between the prices of chocolate in euros. So that means take everything first to euros. Okay. So if I start, okay, can I show you where do you find this in the textbook? You will find this in part 1, chapter 1, and then you will find it on page 42, exchange rate, money and finance. Okay, but let's start. Let's start with the exchange rate. Always first write. So it's pound and then euro, and it's 1.08. Now calculate, so in euros. So take the pound one and convert the pound one to euro. So it's 5.38, and that's x. Then I cross multiply and I get x is equal to 1.08 multiply 5.38, and that is going to, and don't approximate, first in the final step I can, 104. And then I'm taking that 5 point, because now this one is also in euro. So now I can take that 5.8104 and I subtract that the one that's already there, the 320. You see, because this is now going to be in euro. So this is going to be euro and it's going to be euro. And if you subtract that, you're going to get 2.6104. And money, we approximate, it is exact, but due to the fact that it's money, we approximate to 2 decimal places. And that's your final answer. Let's just go to the report and see what they say there. Okay. Okay, so poorly answered. Sad. A common wrong method was simply subtracting the two. No, you cannot if the units are different, the exchange rate. Some candidates give their answers in pounds instead of euros. Some candidates manage to change to euros but fail to find the difference. Comprehensive reading must be emphasized. So read especially word sums more than once. Once just to get the idea, and then the second time to highlight a few things. So 2.61. Okay, so they were not so strict, but if it's money, we usually approximate to to 2 decimal places. All these videos refer to the y equals mx+c textbooks, the #1 mathematics textbook used in Namibian schools. For more information on these textbooks, visit the Straight Line Publishing website. All y equals mx+c to success textbooks are available in the NEET catalogue of the Ministry of Education. Schools can order these using their yearly budget for textbooks, with the process typically starting mid-year. Make sure your learners have a copy of the y equals mx+c mathematics textbook used by the top schools in Namibia in front of them in 2025. A final point. If you are in the position, I want to encourage you to buy your own personal copy of the y equals mx+c mathematics textbook. These textbooks are available at the following bookshops. Remember, success in mathematics comes from hard work, perseverance, and the courage to face challenges head on. Good luck with your final 2024 examination.